Yes, glad to have you back on Nigeria Decides on Plus TV Africa. Well, the media is often regarded as one of the pillars of democracy in any society. Of course, we know that the media is the fourth estate of the realm. The media serves as a platform for protecting the fundamental human rights of citizens through the freedom of expression and freedom of information. But then, what is the role of the media in this upcoming election in Nigeria? We still have with us Kayode Ladeinde, political editor. Thank you so much for staying with us still. And yes, this year, political editor. So before we came back on set, I was asking you the question. You've observed elections in the past, and we are at the fringe of having another election. What has changed in the Nigerian media between the last election in 2015 and now? What are the changes you've observed?
The question is actually broad, very broad, in the sense that probably the noticeable change we would have loved to see may not take place in terms of the Electoral Act amendment that was not signed by the president, because that would have given us a new feel that election results can be declared and transmitted straight to the coalition center. That is not going to happen. We are likely to have, when cases go to tribunal, we're likely to have card reader being made reference to as a legal document, exhibit that you can use, but we are not going to hack them. But what has changed, it is expected that from time to time, there should be a review of how these elections are conducted. Now, you remember
essentially,
that
I'm asking about the Nigerian media, you know, the media environment.
Okay, not the election itself.
Yes, from how it was in 2015, how the media functioned, because you're a field person.
Good.
You were all over the...
I think the best way to answer that is a recent training we had with BBC Media Action with head of TVs in the Southwest region. And the core part of what that was referred to was the lessons that was learned in 2015. Don't forget the popular documentary of The Lion of Babylon and how the NBC did not really cut the media. So you see a whole lot of restraint from the media complying with the NBC code. That's the regulator. And you've seen them, treading with caution. You've seen different media houses, writing disclaimer when politicians are using their rhetorics on national TV, where you see politicians using those hate speeches. So things have changed. A lot of media houses seem to have, exercised a whole lot of caution in allowing hate speeches. That is on the side of the electronic media. But on the side of the print, you still have some excesses. You still have some sponsored editorials. And it probably is too early to also conclude that they've also exercised a lot of cautions. Don't forget that popular advertorial that was done by the then governor of Ekiti State, where he put a kind of obituary of the sitting president. Those are the excesses that the media went into. And that also brings us to the question of how much is the regulation in the print media. That's talking about the Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria, the NPAN. But in that of the electronic media, the policing is quite intense in terms of what can go and what cannot go. And when it is a live broadcast, it's more demanding, it's more challenging for the media. So they are more careful. And that's why you see that kind of disclaimer.
But then what could be responsible for the fact that we have less infringements of the NBC code on electronic media, unlike the print media?
And what could be the factors you said? Definitely.
Apart from regulation, what are the other factors that could, make those who are managing broadcast houses to be more, alert?
Exactly. For the fact that what happened to those stations was not a good one. They went to court. They were copied. They were not told that, because you're just a medium. The medium was also, copied in that litigation against that media houses. So there is a bit of caution. Then other things that were also responsible is that the social media has been in competition with the traditional media. But what people have now done is that when people want to get a verified, authentic stories, you would resort to the traditional media. So there is that sense of responsibility on the part of the traditional media to churn out information they can defend. You know, you recall that at a time when they said the president was dead, it was only trending in the social media. No serious media was caught in that mix. To the extent that the social media now went as far as using the logo of the traditional media to say that this is their online platform. I remember somebody sending that AIT has broken the news that Buhari is dead. And I was like, okay, can you look at the TV to confirm whether this thing is being scrolled? That the president of a country cannot die and then no TV is scrolling it. So this, I don't need to double check that this is fake news. You just need to go straight to your TV and confirm that AIT is not broadcasting such news.
And some print media channels also fell prey to this. There was a time there was a fake punch newspaper website online, and then they started saying stuff like you need to look at the URL, and a couple of people don't even know what URLs are. So they just see punch and it looks very similar, so they just run with it. Now I want to ask a very interesting question. In checking the excesses of the media, if I may, we have several media houses that are called state or federal media houses. In other words, they're government run. So their impress comes from the government, either of the state or the federal government.
That's true.
And their reportage also somewhat is tailored to praise singing. They cannot critique constructively. They can't even dare critique. In those instances, I mean, can you really say that the media is doing its true, job of journalism and being the fourth estate of the realm?
I like the word you use. Quite interesting, because this is an ongoing debate that we do every time from time to time. And probably I'll come back to my experience, like I just told you, that training with the BBC Media Action that they organized for heads of TV, because this issue also came up. Now, the interesting part of it is that there is hardly any serious news you can kill now. You know why? If there are press conferences, I'll give you a very typical example. APC held a rally recently. Sorry, I have to mention a party. I'll go around the party so that they don't think I'm partisan. APC held a rally recently in Lagos, and violence broke out. Now, the organizer definitely would not want such negative news to be reported. But I told them, I said, don't bother to tell us to kill this story. There are many media houses here. So if you don't think you can succeed in killing it, if you kill it here, there is anti-government media houses that will throw the story. So if I were you, prepare your statement to explain what happened there, rather than waiting for us to kill what happened. And to now make the matter worse, some journalists were victims of stray bullets.
Yes.
So, and you want us to kill such story? That would be suicidal, that would be wicked. So, to a large extent, because of that deregulation in the media industry in the early 90s, it is difficult for any government. In fact, if you keep reporting lies, if you keep reporting propaganda, you are not likely to get viewers. Your viewership will be dropping significantly. However, there are also private media houses that are very partisan. But the good news is that a whole lot of professionals in the industry are standing their ground. They're beginning to tell, I can give you clear-cut examples. They're beginning to tell them that we have a duty to balance stories. In fact, we put it to the NBC that what were you doing when some stations were broadcasting the land of Babylon? Why didn't you sanction them? Is it because of the government in power? And they gave us proof of how much was sanctioned to these media houses. They gave us those documents that we are not being fair to those media houses because we did not also report how they were dealt with. So by and large, I think it's an issue of you can't kill most stories now. If you don't report it, another media house is interested in reporting that story, and at the end of the day, you become embarrassed.
Okay.
When you see it in another story and you are not reporting it.
Okay, so that was then. There's a new. I know. I'm going back to the Lion of Babylon and all of the drama that happened before the 2015 elections. A new sheriff is in town, and we know who that sheriff is.
I don't know.
I'm talking about the new president. Of course, he's no longer new. But so we had the National Assembly come up with that whole social media bill that people, you know, were against, to try to somewhat curb what was happening on, you know, in the social media, because it's not traditional. It's a bit difficult to deal with it. And now we're getting ready for 2019 elections. There's a lot happening. We're reporting, in fact, we're talking about it as we speak. How ready are we as the media? Have we grown to the level where we can report differently from how we used to? Have we gotten to the place where we can be as strong as we should, as free as we should? You know, we talk about freedom of the press, even though, you know, it's debatable in Nigeria. Have we grown to a level where we can be on point and not necessarily allow ourselves to be somewhat political or biased in our reportage?
I am being optimistic here. I'm not a pessimist.
Let's try reality now.
No, what I mean optimistic is that some people who reported, who were journalists in the during the military era, will tell you that a lot has changed, a lot has improved,
okay,
a lot that you can even talk about the president being a dictator and you're not taken straight to the damn barrack. It shows that something is getting better. But how better can it get? Because I'm not one of those people who will tell you that Nigerian media is it's far behind. I covered the last presidential election in the US, and I was utterly disappointed. I've been hearing it, I've been seeing it. Oh, Fox is Republican, CNN is Democratic, and you see presenters. That hardly happened here. You see presenters calling, you know, presidential candidate names because of their bias. So these things, the excesses is everywhere. Well, I'm just saying that the excesses are everywhere. But I'm just saying that there is need for us to search ourselves, agree. Some of us are very, very biased in our leanings, but the ethics demands that we need to be objective. We need to be professional. And we have a regulator who is considerably doing his job, because I told them that shouldn't be all about sanctioning too. You should think about quality production. You should think about how these media houses can do better.
But Mr. Kayode, there are a lot of private media houses who complain that the regulator is being paid by the federal government, the government in power. Hence, some of the clampdowns are not necessarily what it should be. They feel that there is some form of bias, or, you know, let's just say that you don't like these people, hence why you're always on their cases. So how do we make sure that there's a balance also coming from the regulator?
Exactly. It exists. It's a reflection of our society. It's a reflection of how do you call it now? Who pays the how do you call
piper
that?
Piper dictates the tune.
Who calls the piper calls the tune, and so that is there. Most of these guys were ex-NTA staffs, and they look at them as do you want to lose your job and the rest. But to a large extent, some of them have tried their best even to remain professional.
So let's hope for a good 2019 elections then.
Absolutely. Definitely, there's a lot more to talk about regarding the role of the media in elections, and we'll definitely bring you back to talk about this. Thank you so much, Kayode Ladeinde, political editor, for joining us for this discussion today on Nigeria Decides on Plus TV Africa. The program returns after now.